Welcome back.
Greetings, Sentinels. This is Universe Unique, and today, the truth comes to light. What if I told you that the new Batman has already appeared, and almost no one noticed? That's right. While the entire world keeps looking at Robert Pattinson and waiting for updates on the Batman 2, the Dark Knight of the DCU is already moving in the shadows, leaving real clues during the filming of Clayface. This is not a baseless theory. There is evidence. And there is also a quiet decision made by James Gunn that points to something bigger. This Batman is not just another reboot. It is a complete break from everything that came before. Before we dive deeper, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel. We're about to hit a very important milestone, and your support is what will make that possible. And if you enjoy being ahead of the curve, understanding what's happening behind the scenes of the new DCU before anyone else, this is where you'll find it. Now tell me, from which city and country are you watching this video? Leave it in the comments. I'll read them all, and if this content is connecting you with the hottest news and theories in the nerd universe, then go ahead and leave the triple kill. Like, comment, and share. He's already there. On posters, in references, in key places across Gotham. The new Batman of the DCU hasn't been officially introduced yet, but his shadow is already cast across every scene being filmed for Clayface. And we're not just talking about small nods. We're talking about visual and narrative elements that completely set this Batman apart from Matt Reeves' version. The first thing that makes this obvious is the city itself. The Gotham they are filming here is not Pattinson's Gotham, and it doesn't intend to be. The clearest clue? The filming location. Even though they're using some of the same physical places that served as Gotham in Reeves' movie, the set design elements have been carefully altered. Different posters, new names, bridges, buildings, and institutions that do not match the Batman. A leaked map from the set shows more than 40 locations, including Wayne Manor and the Batcave, but arranged differently from what we knew. Why? Because this is not a soft reboot. This is a completely new Gotham. And the most interesting part is that it isn't random. It's modeled after the Gotham from the No Man's Land comics. A broken, divided city where chaos has reshaped the map. That choice isn't decorative. It's conceptual. And if this is the setting where the new Batman is born, we already know this won't just be a simple copy of past versions. But there's something else. An absence that says even more than any presence. In all the leaked material, Batman does not appear explicitly. He stays on the margins, out of focus. Why are they hiding him? What are they holding back? There's a very clear reason behind this strategy, and it has nothing to do with marketing. I'll explain in a moment. Because what comes next doesn't just confirm that this is a different Batman, it also reveals what kind of Dark Knight is rising from the center of this new Gotham. If there is something that defines Batman, as much as Bruce Wayne himself, it is the city he inhabits. Gotham is not just a backdrop. It's an extension of trauma, fear, and moral collapse that the character constantly tries to contain. And that is exactly what's at stake in this new stage of the DCU. Because even though the filming of Clayface uses some of the same locations we saw in Matt Reeves' The Batman, the message is clear. This is not the same Gotham. And it won't be. The first concrete clue appears in the official set map that leaked just a few weeks ago. More than 40 locations are marked, with names that strongly resonate with comic readers. Kane Bridge, Robinson Park, the Penguin's Lounge, Monarch Theater, Black Gate Prison. But this is not just about nostalgic references. The overall design of the map, including territorial divisions, strategic bridges, and the layout of neighborhoods, directly matches the Gotham from No Man's Land, one of the darkest and most influential comic book storylines. In that arc, Gotham has been devastated by an earthquake and abandoned by the government. Each area falls under the control of different criminal factions, as if it were a war board. Batman operates from the shadows in a city where law no longer exists. The choice of this version of Gotham is no accident. It speaks of a Batman emerging in a collapsed environment, where traditional symbols of order, like the police or the government, no longer mean anything. And this is where the contrast begins to emerge. Because Matt Reeves' Gotham was dirty, wet, and almost Gothic in the literal sense. Filled with ancient secrets, institutional corruption, and psychological decay. But it was still functional. Here, by contrast, everything points to a fragmented city defined by survival and criminal territorial control. This is not organized crime, it's urban warfare. Even the names of some places reinforce that tone. Gotham Regeneration Project, for example, appears on one of the set's posters. At first glance, it looks like a simple urban detail, but it recalls too strongly the Renewal Project from Reeves's universe, which was a corrupt political program. Here, however, the word regeneration carries a different weight. It suggests that this Gotham has already collapsed, and is now trying to rebuild itself from the rubble. That's the key. This Gotham is not connected to the previous one because it doesn't need to be. It is a new narrative laboratory, an environment that allows the Dark Knight to be redesigned from scratch without carrying the legacy of other universes. But there's more. One point on that map does not appear at first sight, and it could reveal what the real conflict in the shadows of the DCU will be. And let me assure you, it has nothing to do with Clayface, nor with the Joker. The true enemy of this Gotham may be closer than we think. A city is also defined by its symbols, and the Gotham of the new DCU is full of them. But these are not just references for attentive fans. These Easter eggs are building a network of meaning that redefines the rules of the game. And this is where the set map takes on far more relevance than it first appears. It is not just a piece of scenery, it is a statement of intent. A strategic blueprint for the future of the DC cinematic universe. The first notable point is Wayne Manor. On the map, it is marked as location number 3, but it doesn't appear in the publicly released section. Why? Because it lies across the river, outside the main frame. That omission is not a technical mistake. It is a deliberate choice. It implies that Batman's figure, his origin, his identity, his sanctuary, remains part of the narrative core, but stays at the margins, hidden, watchful, exactly how he operates within the fiction itself. The Batcave is also mentioned, but not shown in detail. And this ties directly to the way James Gunn is introducing the new Dark Knight, without direct exposure, but leaving clear traces. As if he is already active, even though no one can say exactly since when. The map also includes Amusement Mile, traditionally known as the Joker's Refuge. In this universe, no actor has yet been confirmed to play the new Clown Prince of Crime, but the location is there. Present. Established. As if his presence were already inevitable, even without making an appearance. The same goes for other places like Gotham Botanical Gardens, connected to Poison Ivy, or the Penguin's Iceberg Lounge. There are no official announcements, but the ground is already prepared. Then there's a detail that, at first glance, might seem minor. Finger Memorial Park. It looks like just another homage, but it's not. Because Bill Finger was Batman's co-creator alongside Bob Kane, and for decades, he received no official recognition. His name being on the map is not just historical correction. It's a clue that this new DCU version is going to do things differently, more consciously, more connected to the real roots of the character. And among all these points, one stands out in particular: Gotham City Courthouse. A building not only marked but physically recreated on set for important scenes. And that leads us to a specific character, Jimmy Red McCoy, a mobster from Batman's classic comics, mentioned in set newspapers as someone on trial in that courthouse. Why bring back such an old secondary character? What is the point of introducing him now? The key lies in what he represents. McCoy is not a supervillain. He has no powers. But he symbolizes Gotham's old criminal order, the traditional mafia. His presence in court suggests that we are witnessing a shift. The judicial system is trying to regain control, while supervillains begin to emerge from the shadows. It's a narrative turning point. A moment marking the end of one era, and the beginning of a much more dangerous one. But that's not all, because hidden among all these symbols is one we haven't mentioned yet. It appears almost imperceptibly on a simple street poster. one that points directly to a character not yet revealed in the official DCU casting, but whose presence here changes everything. I'll show you in the next block, because what it implies doesn't just affect Batman, it reshapes the entire villain hierarchy of the DC Universe. The release schedule of the new DCU is a puzzle that, so far, doesn't fully add up. Clayface is presented as an origin story for Matt Hagen, the metahuman version of the character. In theory, it should be set before his complete transformation. However, everything leaked from the set points to a fully active Gotham in the present, with visual elements consistent with already canonical events from Superman, Legacy, and Peacemaker. This is where the first fracture appears, because if Creature Commandos, which is canon in the DCU, already showed the death of one version of Clayface, supposedly the same, then something doesn't line up. Is this a hidden retcon? Or are we seeing a Clayface from before the one who died? The issue becomes even more complex when we look at the products featured on set. Zesty Cola, Big Belly Burger, Jitters. All of them recurring DCU brands tied explicitly to the same timeline in which Superman takes place. And yet, the Clayface shown on set is not fully transformed. He is still Matt Hagen, visibly wounded, in a mutation phase. Everything suggests we are seeing the days before his full conversion, making this film a prequel, but with set designs aligned with the present. That contradiction doesn't feel accidental. Instead, it suggests James Gunn is working with a fragmented timeline structure where individual stories are not necessarily told in chronological order. There's also another clue: newspapers seen on set. In one of them, a game between the Gotham Knights and the Metropolis Meteors is mentioned. Two fictional DC teams. But that same stadium already appeared in Superman. Legacy as the site of a battle between Superman, Ultraman, and the Engineer. This places that event at a very specific point in the canon. So why is it still present as a backdrop in Clayface? One possible explanation is that Clayface is not told in a linear fashion. We may be seeing flashbacks intercut with current events. Another is that there is more than one Clayface in play, something the comics have already explored, with multiple versions of the character. But there is also a third, subtler, and riskier option for DCU continuity, that Gunn is quietly making small timeline adjustments without openly calling them retcons. This last idea gains strength when we consider Peacemaker, where Arkham and Belle Reve are mentioned as the sites of multiple recent breakouts. That could explain Batman's heightened activity in Gotham. He isn't just starting his crusade, he is reacting to a prison crisis following Superman's film events. And if that's the case, Clayface is not an isolated origin story, but part of that chain of consequences. The most interesting part, however, is what isn't mentioned. Because among all the references to villains, organizations, and locations, there is total silence regarding Amanda Waller. And in this universe, that is never a good sign. When Waller is absent, it usually means she is pulling strings from the shadows, and that ties directly to a recurring pattern across this new DCU. A pattern that starts framing Batman not as the leader, but as the last to join a game that has already been in motion. And the final move may already be decided. James Gunn made it clear from the beginning: we are not going to see the Waynes' death again. No more pearl necklaces falling to the ground. No more dark alleys as a founding origin. And that, at its core, is a bigger break than it seems. Because it means this Batman is not here to tell his story, but to step into one that is already in progress. A pre-existing figure, the audience only starts to notice once the world is already collapsing. So far, the only thing officially confirmed is that the DCU's Dark Knight will not be Robert Pattinson's. There is no connection to Matt Reeves' saga. And all the visual elements support this. The posters, the sets, the architectural styles. But that hasn't stopped speculation. Why haven't they announced the casting yet? Why is his presence kept so deliberately in the background, even in a production like Clayface set in his own city? The most logical answer lies in the release calendar. Reeves' Batman. Part 2 is coming shortly after Superman. And Gunn, with strategic foresight, does not want to overlap two versions of the same character during the same promotional window. Not because they compete directly, but because it risks confusing the general audience. Presenting two Batmans at the same time would dilute the impact of both, but that's only the surface-level reason. Beneath it lies a different vision of Batman. This is not going to be a lone vigilante in his early years. Not a brooding detective still trying to understand his place in the world. Everything points to the DCU's new Batman being a strategist, someone who has already built part of his network, who knows the terrain, who has been operating in the shadows for a while, and that's why he stays hidden, because his story does not begin with explaining his origin, but with showing his reach. In the newspapers seen on the Clayface set, there are mentions of crimes tied to supervillains, open trials, and recent Arkham breakouts. But at no point does the vigilante appear as the protagonist, only as an implied force. And that perfectly matches a key idea in the comics. Batman doesn't need to be visible to control Gotham. His power lies in what he represents, in what others believe he might do. That seems to be the narrative tactic Gunn is using. Plant clues. Mention his existence indirectly. Show his influence on the environment without yet revealing his face. It's a construction from the shadows. And that decision has another advantage. It allows them to measure the audience's reaction, to see how the fandom responds to small hints, and to adjust the character's tone accordingly. But there's something else. A concrete reason why keeping him hidden right now may be vital. Because if the rumors about the next major DCU villain are confirmed, then this Batman's first true appearance will not be in his own movie. It will be in a confrontation that forces him to step out of the shadows, not by choice, but by necessity. And that moment hasn't come yet. Even though the pieces are already in place, even though Gotham is already calling him, the city is already contaminated. And not because of Clayface. In this new DCU, Gotham shows signs of being infested with figures operating on the edges of power, quietly, waiting. The clues are everywhere, scattered across the set like carefully placed pieces. Because even if Clayface appears to focus on the origin of a single villain, what's being built is a board with multiple active threats. Some familiar, others completely unexpected. One of the most striking signs spotted during filming is a Sionis construction poster. That is a direct reference to Roman Sionis, better known as Black Mask. It's not just a nod. It signals business activity in Gotham, which implies physical presence, influence, and resources. In the comics, Sionis represents criminal economic power disguised as legitimacy. His involvement, even at the margins at this stage, could foreshadow a broad corruption network, ideal for a universe where institutional systems are already collapsing from within. He's not alone. Street posters and murals on the set include clear references to the DCU's Black Canary. This appearance has not been officially confirmed, but the character's placement in a specific display strongly suggests she will be part of Clayface's narrative environment. The interesting point isn't her inclusion as a heroine, but where she sits within the city's structure. If Canary is active in Gotham at this point in the timeline, that means more operatives are on the ground. And that inevitably points to the future arrival of the Bat family or allied factions. Alongside them are signals for other known names. The Joker, indirectly referenced through Amusement Mile and street graffiti. The Penguin, teased via the Iceberg Lounge. And Poison Ivy, whose link to Gotham Botanical Gardens is visually marked. None has been officially cast for the DCU, but the stage is set. As if chaos already had a face, but has not yet shown its form. Then comes the most unsettling detail. A public works sign mentions the Gotham Regeneration Project. At first glance, it could pass as a routine civic program. But the parallel with the Gotham Renewal Project from Matt Reeves' saga is too precise to be accidental. If that earlier program hid a corruption network tied to Gotham's criminal aristocracy, this new project could be functioning as a front for something much larger. A reorganization of crime under a new logic. More strategic. More dangerous. Which raises an inevitable question. Who benefits from a chaotic Gotham, divided into power zones, riddled with institutional voids, and with Batman still out of the spotlight? The answer may tie to an organization not yet named aloud in the DCU, but hinted at for years between the lines. A hidden force that doesn't need loud introductions or big action scenes to mark its presence. It only needs silence, architecture, and control. And its symbol may be closer than you think. When people talk about Batman's deepest threats, most think of the Joker, Bane, or Ra's al Ghul. But there is an organization that doesn't need to appear to inspire fear, one that has operated for centuries from Gotham's shadows, shaping its history, architecture, and power. The Court of Owls. And although James Gunn has not mentioned it publicly, the leaked Clayface set elements seem designed to whisper its name without saying it. Start with the city's visual layout. On the official map, Wayne Tower is highlighted as a historic building, constructed by a distant Wayne ancestor in the 19th century. In the comics, the court has a direct link to Gotham's founding elite, infiltrating the great families, power symbols, and structural foundations of the city. That tower's placement at the center of the map isn't decorative. It's a reminder that the roots of control have always been there. Another relevant detail: Finger Memorial Park and Kane Bridge. Yes, they honor Batman's original creators, but they also line up with key elements of the court's canon. In Batman, the New 52 by Scott Snyder, Bruce investigates Gotham's oldest buildings and uncovers hidden passages, secret chambers, and constructions marked with Masonic-like symbolism, all tied to historic locations that have stood for centuries. The idea is simple and terrifying. Gotham was never free. It has always belonged to someone. If this new Gotham is inspired by No Man's Land, a city abandoned, fragmented, broken, then the ground is perfect for the court to resurface. Not to conquer the city, but to reclaim what it has always considered its own. In an environment where institutions have fallen and classic villains compete for control, the court does not need to rush. It only has to wait for the right moment to reveal its strength. In the comics, the Owls strike when Bruce begins to disturb the balance of power, when he tries to change Gotham from the inside. Here's where everything aligns. The DCU's Batman has not shown his face yet, but his presence is felt in the shadows. And if there is anything the court despises, it's someone altering the equilibrium of its system. In the panels, they deploy the Talons, undead assassins trained from childhood, to eliminate those who threaten their legacy. If the new DCU Batman is operating off the radar, investigating Arkham breakouts, mafia resurgence, and the advance of organized crime, then it's only a matter of time before he crosses a line the court does not allow to be crossed. The question is no longer whether the court will appear, but whether it already has. In buildings, plaques, names. In posters that look neutral, but have echoed for centuries. Gotham is full of eyes. Some we recognize. Others blink once and disappear. But all look to the same place. There is a symbol that has not yet surfaced in this DCU, and when it does, there will be no doubt. The owl is real, and it has been waiting. What is happening now in the DC Universe is not merely a transition phase. It is an active rewrite, where every visual choice, every line of dialogue, and every newly built location carries an editorial intention. At the center of this transformation is a figure that never fully left, but has not yet returned. Batman. Or rather, the Batmen. The fandom has long split into two camps. On one side, those who want Matt Reeves' universe, with its neo-noir aesthetic and introspective focus, to remain independent, an auteur work outside canon. On the other, those hoping for a more ambitious integration, where Pattinson, or at least his aesthetic, connects somehow to James Gunn's new DCU. The reality is that this divide is being used as a narrative device within the universe's design. One proof is the comparison between the Gotham City Hall seen in Clayface filming and the building used in the Batman. They are completely different. Architecture, scale, lighting. One is more classical and institutional, the other more brutalist and oppressive. This is not just a matter of style. It is a clear signal that two distinct Gothams exist. Not overlaid, not compatible. And that this separation is not temporary. It is deliberate. Editorially, this is a clear, hard reboot. With a twist, Gunn's team has chosen not to label it as such in marketing. They prefer to build the difference through subtext and detail. They let fans speculate, compare, and doubt, without offering a direct answer. That ambiguity, however contradictory it seems, functions as engagement. It sustains interest, sparks conversation, and prevents a portion of the audience from disengaging entirely. There is precedent for this approach. For years, Fox's X-Men saga ran with contradictory timelines, partial restarts, and multiple versions of characters like Magneto or Charles Xavier. Audiences still stayed engaged, because ultimately, what matters isn't only coherence, it's the sense of belonging to a universe. Gunn is building his from that place, respecting past work without inheriting its mistakes. This is where another key element comes in. The Gotham Regeneration Project, mentioned on Clayface sets. The name evokes Reeves's renewal project, but it isn't the same. It's a nod, yes, and also a boundary. As if to say, this is not a continuation, but we won't ignore what worked before. It's a difficult balance, but one that can pay off if managed intelligently. The big unknown is whether this duality will persist indefinitely, or converge in a larger event. There is a concept not yet used officially in the new DCU, but hovering as a latent possibility: the multiverse. If that door opens, we could see multiple Batmen coexist. Not as mutually exclusive versions, but as pieces of the same puzzle. Until then, what unfolds is a silent war. A battle of tones, styles, and symbols. And the true winner may not have been revealed yet. Throughout this video, we've traveled a Gotham under construction. Not literal construction, symbolic, emotional, narrative. Every element of this city is designed to prepare the ground for a figure that has not shown his face: the new DCU Batman. The most effective aspect is that his absence is, by itself, a storytelling tool. According to production details, Batman will not have a central role in Clayface. That does not mean he is absent. His shadow is everywhere. In the city's Gothic architecture, in GCPD reports about escaped criminals, in alleys where violence grows unchecked. Batman operates from the shadows, like an urban myth beginning to take shape. It follows the same logic Christopher Nolan used in Batman Begins, before Bruce had fully defined his symbol. Or, earlier still, in Frank Miller's Batman, Year One, where Gotham senses something is there but has not named it. Gunn's approach appears to move in that direction, not presenting the Dark Knight head-on, but constructing his legend before revealing him. Because a Batman who has not yet arrived can generate more anticipation than one already overexposed. There is also a strategic factor that cannot be ignored. The Batman Part 2 is slated for release a few months after Superman, Man of Tomorrow, within the new canon. If Gunn were to introduce his Batman right before that, audiences would inevitably compare the two. No matter how different the takes, comparison would weigh against the newcomer. Waiting for Pattinson's story to close its chapter before officially presenting the new Batman is not just respectful, it's tactical. What seems clear is that this Batman won't copy any previous version. He is not Reeves's tormented detective, nor Snyder's brutal enforcer. Based on what we've seen, the map, ties to Arkham, the possible presence of the Court of Owls, everything points to a more complex approach. A Batman operating inside a broken system without fighting it head-on. Someone who understands the balance of chaos. A new symbol that does not forget its legacy. When we finally see him, whether in The Brave and the Bold, a final scene in Clayface, or even a moment in Peacemaker, that appearance won't be just a cameo. It will be a statement. A promise that the DC Universe finally has a Dark Knight with a clear purpose, his own mythology, and real room to evolve. This Batman does not spring solely from a single tragedy. He emerges from a corrupt system that needs to be dismantled from within. And if you've made it this far, Sentinel, you're waiting for that appearance too. The scene that will redefine the character for a new generation. If this video connected with what you already felt, if Gotham seems familiar even before it fully takes shape. Subscribe to the channel. We're very close to an important milestone, and your support now is more than a number. It's what allows us to keep revealing the hidden pieces of this forbidden universe. Before you go, tell us in the comments which city, or even which country, you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this alert signal from Gotham has reached. See you very soon. And remember, the city no longer sleeps, because he is about to arrive.